Today I wanted to discuss how to choose a backpacking stove. This is greatly different than a camping stove since the size and weight for camping really do not matter. But when you are backpacking, you do need a light stove, and depending how serious you are, how many miles you're going, you might need to go ultra light at that point. So really there's three types of the main backpacking stoves. That's a canister stove on your left, a liquid fuel stove on your right, and an alternative fuel stove in the middle. And I'll go through each of these, and each has its pros and its cons. So let me know later what you think, what you recommend. Having one of each for different situations is really ideal. For instance, if you're using an alternative fuel stove, the one in the middle, you're basically burning twigs and small pieces of wood that you find. That's great because it's lightweight, but if it's a wet weather environment, it's really, you're not going to be able to cook. And with the canister stove on the left, which I think is the most ideal because of the cost and the compactness and the lightweightness of it, that really is going to be something that you want to have at a minimum as a backup. The one on the right is a lot more costly. You're looking at probably about $100, but that one can use the white gas, the Coleman fuel, or it can also use the canisters, which they cost about $5. But normally for that, you're going to be using a bottle filled with the kerosene or gasoline or the white gas. So let me go through each of them, and at the end, let me know what you like to use. Again, I think it really is, situation dependent, where you're going, how far you're going, when you're going. So right there you can see a typical canister stove. This one, you can tell it's the Coleman Peak 1 as the stove itself, and it's on top of just a regular canister. And this is about $15 for the stove itself, and the canisters run about $5. The stoves weigh 6.7 ounces, and the canisters weigh about 8 ounces, and these will cook for about an hour. The advantage of this one is it can go on a high or a simmer, and if it's on high, it can boil a liter of water in 3¼ minutes. The canister itself is a isobutene and propane mix. There's about 20% propane in it. The reason for that is it helps in the colder temperatures to actually have the butane be able to burn. Disadvantages of this, if it's a cold weather environment under freezing, these may not burn. Also, high altitudes negatively affect how these things work. So for the ideal summertime, fall time backpacking, this is a great option for it. Some of the pros of this are it's small and lightweight. This is just a lightweight version. There's ultra lightweight that you're going to spend probably about $30 on, which is going to reduce the weight of it. It will eliminate the bulkiness in the middle, and even instead of a knob itself, it's just going to have 2 wires that turn. And some of them also have built-in igniters. This one's just using a lighter to start it. Another advantage is these are quick. There's no priming necessary. You simply turn the valve and light it with a match. And since the flame adjusts, you can also cook on it, so you're not just boiling water, but you can simmer and cook on it. Another advantage is the canister self-seals, so once you unscrew it, there's no worry about spills or anything else. Some of the cons of this, though, the arms on the left, those are pretty small, so you might not be able to hold large pots or pans on it securely. And it's also tough to know how much gas is inside. You're dealing with an hour of cook time. You can shake it and feel how much is approximately left, but you don't know until it runs out. Another disadvantage is you can't use a windscreen on this. And the reason for that is the temperature will be trapped and could potentially lead to this exploding. Another disadvantage is the cost of the fuel is pretty high. For $5 for an hour of cook time, that's pretty expensive. And then when you're done cooking and the canister runs out, you're dealing with the canister waste. So you have to properly dispose of these by puncturing holes, making sure it's empty. There is another subtype of this, which I haven't used, and these are the integrated canister systems. These are the ones where it's built right in so that you can boil water really fast, jet boil type. Relatively expensive. I think they run around $75, and that eliminates the need for a windscreen, but is a pretty high price. And if you're only going to be boiling water, it's good, but if you're trying to cook, it's not able to do that. So for this, I just put together the wood burning stove. This is one of the alternative fuel stove types. Typically you'll hear the term solo stove. This is actually just a cheap China knockoff. It was probably $15-$20. The advantage of this is that fuel is abundant as long as you're not in a wet weather, so that you can go in and just begin to burn anything you find. This makes it lightweight, and you don't have to carry any fuel with you. Disadvantages, of course, is finding dry fuel during wet weather could be challenging, and if there's a burn ban or a place where you can't have open flames, then that is definitely a disadvantage. Let me go show you the different pieces of this. You saw it fit nicely in the bag. You have in here a large area to cook on, and you're basically filling it up and burning as you go. This is one of the multi-fuel types. You can see it on there. It's the MSR Whisper Light, which costs about $100. And you see the different options there. You can either use a bottle, which is pressurized, that is completely refillable, or you could use a canister, which provides you the option of inverting the canister, give you pretty much best of both worlds. That will keep it burning better during cold weather temperature or altitude. Seeing how it looks, this does have some benefits. Cost is not one of them, but one of the benefits is it does have a wide base and wide cooking surface. And this can run on white gas, which is highly refined and has few or no impurities. This is the Coleman fuel. It burns hot and clean and performs well in below freezing temperatures. Compared to the per ounce cost of canister fuel, it's much less expensive. And this one can also use unleaded auto gasoline or kerosene. The big disadvantage of this type is the use. It's a little complicated because it involves priming. So for a Boy Scout or someone like that that hasn't used it before, canister fuel is so much easier. But this one does require you to create a small flame that preheats the fuel line, and this enables the stove to convert the liquid fuel into vapor. And you need to pressurize the bottle by pumping it. And another big disadvantage is the maintenance involved. You need to clean the fuel hose, replace the O-rings periodically in the stove and on the fuel bottles. And there's many little parts and pieces to keep track of. Another disadvantage is it's possible to spill the fuel relatively easily, and these are heavier. It's about a pound. So for a short hike, does not really make a difference. 6 ounces versus a pound, but this does have a lot of advantages, including the ability to use different sources of fuel and to be able to use a windshield around it. Also, I think, again, best of both worlds is having this and using a canister. You can see there's a canister stand included with it so that you can invert the canister on it. Now, those are really the 3 main types of backpacking stoves, really based on the weight. There are a couple other ones, a little less common, but also useful depending on the situation. You have a denatured alcohol stove. Some people really like those because all you have to do is carry a bottle of alcohol with you. It does take a little longer to burn, and wind is a big factor on those. I've made those, the penny stoves. Another type is the solid fuel tablet stoves. I don't have one. I think I would like to pick one up for a bug out bag because these, it's very lightweight. The stove is just a piece of metal so that you have something to cook on, and it's just tablets that go in there. The problem with them a little bit, they're slow to bring to a boil, and the tablets may have an odor and leave greasy residue. But I think based on the size and the weight, those would be perfect as a backup stove. So let me know your thoughts. I'm not a huge backpacker. I've done it occasionally. Most of the time I'm more car camping or hiking in with a backpack on. But I have found for scouts and things like that, my son's a Boy Scout. He had to go on a backpacking trip recently, and I made sure he had the canister stove, thinking that was the most practical and inexpensive also. But he'll be doing more, so I'll probably be doing more also. And next time I'll probably bring out the MSR Whisper Light along with some Coleman fuel. So hopefully you've learned something. I learned something when I was looking into this a little bit. So if you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments below. And as always, like the video, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe.